The Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine Institute for Legislative Action presents Leadership Through Action. Now, here are your hosts, David Trahan and Mike Shaw.
Welcome to Leadership Through Action, a production of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine Institute for Legislative Action. My name is Dave, and I'm with my co-host Mike, and we're on the edge of the election finally, and I got to be honest with you, Mike. Thank God. Thank God. I went on social media yesterday and I just said, please stop. I heard that there was another buy from the Gideon campaign for $4 million yesterday from
There's
that
still something
yesterday.
left out there to buy?
That's what I said. What are you going to buy? Holy smokes. And I went on social media and just said, please stop. Please stop. So, and it goes for the other ones, the Republicans, the Democrats, all of them. We've heard enough. It's time to vote. And just a little bit of mercy would be nice.
There
but
are
anyway,
a couple nice ones out there that I've liked.
Yeah, Jared Golden had a couple of nice ads.
He had a couple good ones.
Pleasant one, yeah.
Maddie Daughtry, she's running for state senate, had a nice Facebook video. There was a couple local women that run a CSA farm, and I forget exactly what the topic was, but it was a nice. It was nice. Yeah. It's refreshing where they're not just out attacking everybody.
Well, it's the only ones I'm paying attention to.
Exactly.
Just so if you're a candidate out there.
Exactly.
The rest of them get muted, or I scream at them, or I swear. My wife finally got me under control the other day. She said, you need to stop swearing at the radio.
I saw a post by someone on Facebook. It said that they've resorted to muting, but then the husband and wife will ad-lib their own words into each candidate's thing, and they have fun playing that.
Well, as a past woodcutter and a person who supports the forest products industry, I would say that we're going to be fine for the next year, given all the stuff that's come in the mailbox.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the recycling bin's full, and I think, pretty much trees are in danger right now. With that, we got a lot we're going to talk about in this show. We have 3 guests. Jeff Clements going to come on from American Promise, Stand With Maine program that they're running to try to get the spending under control. He's going to come on and give us a last-minute update on the spending, what's coming from the state, what's coming from out of state. And then Bill Green, who's been prominent in this election, especially in the Senate race, is going to come on. We're going to do an interview with him for a little while. And then at the end, we're going to talk with Matt Dunlap,
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, going to talk about ranked choice voting.
Yeah, we'll follow up because we ran out of time.
Yeah, we did. And I want to finish that discussion because I did have an interesting call from a member that was told by his town clerk that if he votes across the line for one candidate, his ballot's going to get rejected. And that's the opposite.
Not accurate.
That's not accurate. No. I want to make sure that Matt clarifies that for our listeners. But
Real
with that,
quick, what'd you do this week outdoors?
Well, I got all ready for deer hunting season, and I've been out making sure all my stands are safe to sit in and scouting, which, by the way, I can't seem to go in the woods without seeing a deer. I kick them up every time I go. Yesterday, I went down to set up a ground blind for a kid that I'm mentoring, and just for us both to sit in, and saw 5 on the way down. Yeah. And then so I did go turkey hunting once, and turkey made a mistake and I didn't. And
nice.
So I've got two in the freezer. So I'll be having those this winter. Awesome. I make turkey soup out of them, by the way, and I really like it. Yeah. I've got a soup broth all ready to go.
Nice.
How about you, Mike?
Well, I was kind of winterizing my camp, and we did go out fishing. We were trolling, and I'll have to admit, drinking.
Not the person driving, I'm sure.
No, I was not driving.
Yeah,
no.
That's right.
And it was interesting. Fireballs, everyone knows, is the whiskey, the cinnamon flavored whiskey.
How does that enhance your fishing trip?
We just after a day of working, we just kicked back and relaxed.
Have a good time.
But I found this brand of cinnamon whiskey that's made right here in Maine, and I believe it was Chadwick's, and they're in Pittston, I heard. Yeah. And it's actually drier than Fireball, so it's not as sweet. It's actually really very, very tasty. I'd highly recommend it.
I'm sure you drink it just for the taste.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I do.
Chadwick's actually they started out making Maine-made maple whiskey. That was their thing.
Oh yeah. In fact, I think I saw that next to the cinnamon was the maple whiskey too. I'm gonna have to try that one too. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Well, we caught a brown trout, a couple small bass, a couple pickerel. It was fun.
Huh, nice.
So that was my outdoor adventure.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Well, I'm a little bit jealous because I didn't do much of that. I would like to go fishing one more time. I've got a pond down in Damerscott, or I catch some beautiful trout on. I'm going to try.
Prepping for hunting season is fun too. I mean, geez, that's nothing wrong with that.
So with that, I'm going to get right to Jeff. We'll get right into the political stuff that's going on. You're listening to a production of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine with Dave and Mike, Leadership Through Action. So Jeff, welcome to the show, and we're dying to know what the numbers are. I think we know they're pretty high, but I think you can give us the most accurate numbers on the spending going on in our state.
I will. Thanks, Dave. And hey, Mike, how are you guys?
I'm doing great.
Good, thanks.
Good. Well, you were describing a lot of the results of the money, the horrible negative advertising, overflowing mailboxes, and a lot of noise. I don't know how much light for the voters, but it has come at a huge cost. The total has passed $180 million.
Holy moly. Wow, that's $40 million than I knew. 180?
Down there are two main categories. The candidates are both Senator Susan Collins and Speaker of the House Sarah Gideon. The two major candidates in the race have raised $94 million apiece. And super PACs, the outside money, as it's called, the PACs and some of the big unions and sort of the front groups have spent over $90 million. Almost all of the money is coming from outside of the state. So you look at the big super PAC spenders are sort of fighting for control of the Senate. They don't know Maine or care. And it's the Democratic Senate Majority PAC and the Republican National Senatorial Committee. Their funders are sometimes obscure. Show Me Institute is one, but then sometimes there's individuals and big companies giving millions of dollars to these groups. They're battling for control of the Senate, and Maine is at the forefront of that. So you have all of this money pouring in. And the candidates themselves, both of them, are at about 92%, 93% of their money coming from outside of the state, primarily New York City, Boston, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. So, that's the state of things, and it's not a pretty picture. And the amazing thing is Maine isn't even in the top 3 for Senate races spending. It's even worse in some others.
Wow.
Jeez.
Now, how much of that, is it evenly split between the two candidates? I mean, is one outraising the other? Must be.
Well, yeah, actually, on the candidate spending, Sarah Gideon's raising a lot more money than Susan Collins, so it's around $68 million compared to Susan Collins' $26 million.
Oh, so almost
both
triple.
of them get most of the money from large donors and from out of state. But Sarah Gideon is, I think she was closer, over $50 million in the last sort of report. So just a lot of money poured in. On the outside money, it sort of evens out. This sort of it's roughly in the 40 million plus range on both sides. Almost all negative attacks, by the way.
Ugh. Well, that explains my swearing and my ranting and raving, and the fact that my wife likes to listen to the radio in the morning while we're having coffee and getting ready for our day, and I shut the radio off like 5 or 6 times the other day while we were having breakfast, and she finally just said, "Leave it off. Leave it off." It's getting so ridiculous. What frustrates me, Jeff, is that over a third of the people have already voted. Most of that money is being wasted at this point. In addition, I mean, how many attack ads can you do? I mean, it's I get it. They, this is competitive and all that, but there's got to be a saturation point where this is just becoming irrelevant.
Well, I think so, and I think we should talk maybe a little bit about how it happened and what it really means, because sometimes it can just sound like a lot of numbers, and we all see the negative advertising and everything. But North Carolina is now over $250 million in the Senate race with Lindsey Graham and Jamie Harrison. And so how did it? This isn't what it used to be. I mean, money was always a role in politics, but and I think we've talked before about the Supreme Court decided over the past several decades, not all at once, just a trend towards thinking that the First Amendment free speech right means that we can't limit money, and it's in elections, and that's interesting because that's not what the First Amendment meant for the first 200 years. We never had that rule. We had limits on money. And the reason is because, we all have free speech rights, and the voters need information. And the First Amendment is about rights for everybody. It's a super important amendment. That's why it's first. And, it's like the Second Amendment. It means a lot in relationship to our liberty. And if we're going to stick with this rule that sort of for the First Amendment means money, unlimited money is just free speech. It really means that most people don't have free speech. We turn into spectators. We just have to take it and then not actually get a voice or not actually get some ideas that maybe can't be bought for $100 million that we should be talking about. So
this is made
I think it's the implications of this are pretty important too, and that's what Stand With Maine is all about. Thank you guys for having us on and being part of Stand With Maine. I think we can find solutions if we come together, because everyone cares a lot about free speech and the First Amendment, and we care most deeply about our state and our country and not having this sort of crushed by global money forces.
Well, this has made a mockery out of the First Amendment as far as I'm concerned. You talked about all that out-of-state money, which is spot on, but with that comes consumption of our debate, meaning our media outlets. Right now, we tried to go on the radio to try to get a radio ad to address some of the concerns we have with the Second Amendment, and I was told, forget it. Unless you've got $1 million, don't even bother. That the broadcasters' rates have gone up. These ads, the percentage increase in the cost of those ads has gone through the roof. So it's basically bought people out of the market. Here in Maine, we can't get our own voices heard as Mainers. All these other people from out of state are speaking for us.
And we're an organization. I mean, think about the single person that wants to speak out.
Absolutely, Mike. You nailed it. That's what I mean. The First Amendment, all those rights are established for the individual.
Yeah.
Not for groups to come in and buy up the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or any of the amendments for the... I got to be honest with you. I'm going to be a little edgy on this show because I've had enough of it. You and I, Mike, we served in the legislature. We know how the system is supposed to work. And when the people here in the state, the lawmakers and others can't even speak for themselves, and all of our markets get bought up and other people are speaking for us,
it's crazy.
I take offense with that.
Yeah.
Give us a chance to represent our own state. But anyway, I digress.
I remember back in the day when I was a candidate, I was clean elections, and I used to get, I think, around $4,800, $4,800. And I'd return a portion of it because I didn't even use it all. That ain't going to happen anymore, I bet you.
No, I heard that in one of the Senate races down the Biddeford area, that one party did $250,000 buy in a Senate seat. $250,000. That's just one buy, one ad buy. And the seat in that seat was a safe one. And what that tells me is they've got so much money they can't spend it. They're just throwing it all around.
For any candidate or whoever out there who has a bunch of extra money in their PAC fund at the end of the day or now, feel free. Sam has a 501c3 and a 501c4. So if you donate to the 501c3, it's tax deductible.
Yeah, that's correct. Nice plug, Mike. Hey Jeff, do you see any support being generated around the country to do something about this? I know I've signed on to some solution to this constitutionally. Do you see any growing support? Because if not, then I don't know what we do. Yeah,
well, that's why that's what American Promise is all about. Is if we want to do something, we all have to speak up and sort of stand together on this. Try to, the best way to prevent the solution is for us to succumb to the way that the big money and both parties now, with the big money, really just keep us in perpetual division. Because, we do need a constitutional fix first. It's not the only fix, and you've had some great ideas, Dave, about some legislation potentially. But ultimately, if we don't sort of win the debate about what the First Amendment means, that it belongs to all of us, it can't be just bought, we won't be able to fix this, because that's why the problem is happening. So if we're at 250 million in North Carolina in one race now, what does it look like in 20 years? And our kids, our grandkids' generations, just gone. So we have to get a constitutional amendment. Unfortunately, we are seeing a lot of support around the country, cross-partisan support. Up in Alaska, where they're facing similar, a lot of the states like Maine, where there's resources and out-of-state, interests are want to get in, or you can get a Senate seat and have control in Washington. So places like Montana and Alaska and Maine are really in the front lines of this, and we're seeing a lot of support coming out of that. We're seeing people like Lindsey Graham now saying that we ought to be looking seriously at a constitutional amendment to get this fixed. And support, we did some polling and some work in Ohio. Super majority support, super majority of Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and people are organizing. So if you don't mind, I'll give my own plug wherever you are, Maine or elsewhere, AmericanPromise.net. And what we do is just like what we're doing in Maine, which is help people where they live get involved, connect with each other, and then help get a solution together. So we're going to be pushing this constitutional amendment in the next Congress, and we hope in the states, in state legislatures, and in Maine certainly, and all the other states. So I think we're really starting to. People are kind of reaching the limits and saying, all right, this constitutional amendment's a big deal. Some of the reforms we need are big deals, but we're out of options. We really have to start doing the big stuff now.
Yeah. Well, I really do appreciate you coming back on, and we're going to be talking more about this after the election, I'm sure. If there's not legislation introduced federally, I would be shocked. But one way or the other, this is coming back because it just feels like an avalanche. If you're ever going to experience an avalanche, this is what it looks like. Your tiny little voice under those 20 feet of snow, and nobody can hear your voice. So with that, thank you, Jeff. And we're going to get on to a segment with Bill Green, voice of conservation in the state for a long, long time. And he's been very active in the Senate race. And I'm going to get to him in just a minute. And so, and again, thanks, Jeff. And we'll have you back, I'm sure, in the future.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
guys.
Jeff.
Take care now.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, great. So let's take a short break, and then we'll get Bill on the phone and get on to the next segment.
Leadership Through Action, a presentation of SAM ILA. We'll be right back. Leadership Through Action is back. Here's David Trahan.
Welcome back to Leadership Through Action with Dave and Mike. Mike, we have a special guest. A terrific, exciting guest, Bill Green, who for years was the host of the Green Outdoors. Bill, you've been very prominent in the Senate race here in Maine between Speaker Gideon and Senator Collins. I got to be honest with you, I love your ads. They're upbeat, they're clean, and anyway,
Positive.
we wanted to talk with you about this race and about sort of what you're doing now in your retirement. And I'm going to ask you a little later, do you have a future in politics? Because, God, you'd be a terrific candidate. Welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you very much, David and Michael. I'm surprised by this a little bit, but I've known Susan since 1994 when she ran for governor. My wife worked for the Maine Maine Association of Community Banks, like Kennebec Savings and stuff like that. And Susan was on Collins' staff. So when she ran for governor, my wife said, "Oh, I know her. She's so nice," and blah, blah, blah. So I followed her and introduced myself. And when she lost the governorship, she went to work at Husson, running the Center for Family Business. My sister Julie was running student activities at Husson then, and so Susan's events were under Julie's auspices, and that's how we became friends back in the 90s. So my sister Julie leaves Husson to work on Susan's campaign starting in 96, and my sister Julie's very left, very, very left. And but they became marvelous friends because Susan's a nice person. And so down through the years, I've gotten to know Susan very well, kind of on a personal level. And I politics be darned, I can understand not voting for Susan Collins, but she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. So any ad that you hear about she's changed or she hates Maine is just flat out wrong.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I've known Senator Collins for a long, long time, and I've not always agreed with some of the positions that she's taken. But I will say this. She's the most honest person I know in politics, and I can say that with confidence. I do know some other people that I believe are as honest as she is. But what has been done to her feels like to me it is just a smear of a good career that, if Senator Collins loses, it's one thing. But to just smear her the way it's happened this time around feels like bullying to me. It's just a lot of it's just flat out lies and distortions. And I know some of it's coming from unaccountable people from out of state and these PACs and whatnot. But it's also insulting, Mike, to my intelligence. And let me tell you why I say that. Basically, what they're telling us is she's the most corrupt, evil, horrible, elderly-hating, Medicare-hating senator that's ever existed, and it's insulting to my intelligence that for all those years she's been conning me that she's really been the most hideous and evil person that has ever existed in the U.S. Senate. And I say shame on them.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. It reminds me of, Bill, your commercial with the dogs, actually. Senator Collins hates dogs.
You know what? Can I say something I'm very proud of?
Yep.
I wrote that.
Awesome.
Very good.
That was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
It's kind of Maine sarcasm answering $100 million from out of state. It's just, I just felt I had to stand up, and I want everyone to know that I approached her at my sister's retirement in December and said, if you need an endorsement from me, I was retired at that time. You can. I'd be happy to do it. And I'm not being paid for this, of course. Sometimes in the ads I say paid for by Senator Collins. So that's the ad. I'm not getting any money. And the reason they use my voice on that is because the announcer that says that down in Washington gets $660.
Wow.
Wow. Imagine.
Actually, with all the money out there, Bill, it's too bad you're not getting paid because they probably, but I don't even think they can spend it all. I mean, they might as well give you some.
Yeah. I just found out. Go ahead.
You guys want to, here's something weird. Say Susan beats Sarah. Okay? So Sarah's left with all that money. And let's say that Biden picks Angus to be in the cabinet. Right? Great way to cap off a political career. Everybody, Angus is very articulate, very popular in Maine, but he'll be 80 at the end of his term. So why not spend 4 years as secretary of something? So
interesting.
Governor Janet will pick a senator, which would either be, I would assume, Shelley or Jared, and that would leave, if she picks Shelley, that would leave Sarah Gideon with $20 million to run for Congress next month.
Yeah. Wow, I never saw that one coming, Bill, and I'm usually up on these things, but now that you mention it, boy, there could be some dominoes that fall in Maine. Holy smokes.
That's right. Yeah. And if that happened, we'd have 2 senators with no seniority.
Oh, my goodness. That to that point, I find it completely ironic that for 7 years in a row, Senator Collins was voted the most bipartisan senator in the U.S. Senate, and all of a sudden, just like a cliff, she just dropped right off. And now it seems like that approach to politics, trying to work out solutions and cross over and work with the other party, that's on the outs now. They just want enough soldiers on one side to overwhelm and destroy the other side, with no crossover work in between. And that's one thing Mike and I did when we were in the legislature together. I was a Republican, pretty conservative. Mike was a moderate Democrat. We served on the same committee. I don't think we ever swore at each other once, Mike.
No.
We never threw anything at each other. We never insulted each other. Well, there was that one time, but to that point, though, Mike, people can get along and disagree and still get things done. Yeah. And what happens is if Susan's gone, the new model is carpet bomb your opponent. Lie, cheat, steal, whatever it takes to win, spend money. This will become the new norm in our elections. And ultimately, down the road, this is going to hurt our government.
It's been this way for a short while.
Never this bad, though.
Never this bad.
Never this bad.
I'm surprised by the number of people who are like angry. And probably it's both sides. I don't know, but people, because I'm now, with the the campaign, whatever you call that. I'm affiliated with it.
Yeah.
They'll come, and they're angry. They're mad. I mean, check a look at my Twitter feed, which I can't get on, Bill Green's Maine. I mean, I've been called a piece of crap, and they didn't say crap.
Yep.
Called a lion effing fascist.
Yep.
I mean, I had to look up fascist because Hitler was a Nazi, but Mussolini was a fascist. I'm thinking, all right, what is a fascist? And it's a right-wing person who doesn't want to hear any other type of philosophy of government. Mm-hmm. That's precisely why I'm standing up, because I'm a moderate. I'm in the middle, and I want to hear both sides. Mm-hmm. And that's precisely why I'm standing up. I'm tired of the fact that we cannot have a conversation about issues, and because we're not doing very well on issues, I think.
Well, we appreciate you stepping up to the plate, definitely.
Yeah.
I wonder, I always thought about how we could moderate, especially, I don't know, at least in Maine, I do know, because I was in the State House with David. We vote on every single bill that comes across our desks up there, no matter what. Doesn't matter who it came from. The Speaker and the Senate President run every single bill through there. It either gets yes or no, and that's it. Amended, whatever, but it's voted on. I wonder if that would help in the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House if the majority leader of the Senate had no choice but to run every bill, because they shelter their members, no matter who it is, whether it's our current majority leader
McConnell,
or the past
Schumer,
one, whoever it is, they're going to shelter their own members by not taking votes on legislation.
Sure.
And I wonder.
To me,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's it, because then we'd have everybody on the record. But to me, while there's a great political difference, there's no difference to me between Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer. I mean, whether we swing left or right, obviously there is. But the Senate's got to be more than about the party leaders, right? Yeah. Because then all we would need is the party leaders, or we wouldn't need senators.
Yeah.
Really, we could just let them. But they must hate each other so badly. Mm. Nancy Pelosi, and I can't name all the people, Schumer and McConnell. They must hate because everybody in the country thinks we ought to have more PPP money right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right? I think, 80%, and we're not getting it. Why? Because it's, they're playing a game in Washington, and that's pretty discouraging.
It is. One of the things that frustrates me, Bill, is early on when I was elected, I served 12 years, 8 years in the House and 4 in the Senate. I like policy. I like the process of debate and making policy, doing amendments, people having to justify their positions. And I'm going to take a controversial issue right now that maybe some people don't want to touch. I'm going to take racism, for instance. Right now, all we're having is talking points, rhetoric from the candidates, one-liners, zingers, where they're trying to, or when they don't like the debate and where it's going, they'll call you a racist without any justification. Right. In this nation, let's have a real debate about racism. If you want to get rid of systematic racism or whatever that people want to call it, let's talk about where it is.
One place that it is in SAT testing, etc. I understand that a kid of color and a white kid take the test. The white kid's going to score a little better, somewhat because of the way the test is made up. Okay, let's fix that.
Yeah.
And when you talk about improving the opportunity and status for people of color, one place that we've got to really work hard is schools. Education is the key to everyone's future. And so we've got, that's a place that we've got to get in there and work. But we also have to look at things like, and this is where you get in trouble, family structures.
Amen.
Parents in the home, those kinds of opportunities. It isn't just about, say, spending more on teachers. It's about, real meaningful change. And I'm willing to listen to anything and anybody who's got ideas, especially children, how we can make their opportunity better.
Well, Bill,
I don't think having a march down Exchange Street and breaking a few windows and spray painting businesses is either A, going to improve that, or B, get into the hearts of people who are racist.
Yes.
And change their way of thinking. That's not effective.
No, it isn't. Let's take, for example, another controversial issue, the rates of abortion in this country. African Americans, Hispanics, minorities abort children at a rate of 5-to-1 versus whites. If that doesn't cause your heart to skip a beat, then something's wrong with you. Why aren't we looking at that, analyzing it, researching it, find out why that is? Let's go out there and try to reduce those numbers.
Right. It's too deep. And, I am a pro-choice person, but the way to reduce those numbers is through education and opportunity and living a life where you're not in a situation where, you have an unwanted pregnancy. Now, as I just said, I'm a pro-choice person, but a lot of that is social. It's you know what I mean? It's social as much as it's anything else.
It is.
And
that's where we need to get in and do some meaningful work.
Yeah.
Back to the point, they don't seem to be debating policy down there.
No. It's just hate. It's just lobbing grenades. It's destroying the other person at all costs. I want to talk about one.
Did you watch any of the hearing with Amy Coney Barrett?
Oh, it was horrible. It was just a lot of politicking.
She's the smartest person I've ever seen.
Yeah, she was amazing.
She was the most calm, sat there watching them like you people are idiots. Mm-hmm. Unquestionably the smartest person in the room. And I didn't, I watched a few hours of it. I'm thinking, I want her on the Supreme Court. But they're really worried that she's going to rule this way or rule that. They're not going to have someone who's in their pocket. But on the other hand, where does it say in the Constitution that the Supreme Court is supposed to be liberal?
That's exactly right, Bill. No,
or conservative for that matter.
You're supposed to just interpret the laws and look at precedent and all those other things. Hey, Bill, there's so many other things that I want to touch on while I have you on the phone. The approach that Senator Collins has taken on issues, I know because I've dealt with her office directly, was when there was a policy on the table, she did her research. She did her homework. She sorted through the issues. She looked at the research, and then she tried to formulate a strategy to create a policy that all of us could live by. And I walked us down this path for a reason. People, in order to live under the rule of law, have to have faith in their government and the institutions. They have to have faith in law enforcement and the laws that we as a legislature, and I say we, I include us because we served in the legislature, Mike. When you pass a law, the public has to have faith in it. And I think that's what's crumbling right now is people are looking, who can we trust in government now? And that's bad for our country. And it is the beginning of the end of a country's structure, the trust in the people and the rule of law. And it's where I'm really afraid this country's going.
I hope you're wrong.
Me too.
I have been reading a lot of things about, historically when the intelligentsia becomes unwilling to listen to other sides, when they claim the moral high ground and their side, they're the only way that things can be, and they cut off debate, like we were talking earlier, then you do have a difficult situation in various countries and systems that have come before us. So I've read some things like that, and I think that I just believe in America. So I hope you're wrong, but there's an editorial today, an op-ed piece by a young man who goes to a great college in California, Pomona, and I knew a kid that went to Pomona, and he's a socialist Democrat, and he's on the side of the questions that they're having in Portland, like for the $22 minimum wage and rent control and those kinds of socialist democratic issues. And I think it was the Portland People's Alliance that put those on them. And he's arguing them, and I'm thinking, this doesn't make that much sense to me. And like you said something like you like public policy. So many times I've looked at a law that's been written, and it's hard to write a rule that is fair and that works because there's so often unintended consequences.
And you get that right.
So that's why I think public policy is hard. They'll talk about loopholes in taxes. I think there's always going to be loopholes because there's smart people sitting around trying to figure out how to get around paying a lot of taxes.
Well, having chaired the taxation committee, I can tell you that every time you make a motion in the tax code, you do something, it creates a reaction somewhere else. And it was one of the most difficult policy committees I've ever served on. So you nailed it on tax policy. Mike, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I just agree 100%. It was I fixed a law once, whether you like it or not. It used to be in hunting. It used to be you had to be 100 yards from an occupied dwelling, but what happened was the wardens came to me when I was chair of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and they said, this is a problem because we've got people in court. They shot the house. You could be 101 yards away and you can shoot the house.
Yeah, that's right.
So, we fixed it saying, the projectile has to stay more than 100 yards away from an occupied dwelling. But you can see where unintended consequences come in, for
absolutely. Sure. So, Bill, you make a lot of sense, a lot of comments. And by the way, just ignore that social media horse. You know what?
I am.
I get it every day. Every time I post anything, there's always people watching our Facebook so that they can just try to discredit us and call us names. Back when I worked...
Is that organized, David?
Yes, it is. It
is.
Yeah, when we were working on a replacement to the red flag bill with the Mills administration last session, people were trolling us constantly and attacking us, calling for my resignation, for me to be booted by the board. It is an organized... Well, think about it. In politics, it makes no difference where the gray areas are. If there's a back door to bend the rules, step over the rules, play the gray area, it happens every time. And it's the same on social media. You just assign your paid staffers to go on there twice a day and cause, hate and discontent for an organization like ours.
Yeah.
So yes, my answer is yes. But getting back to you, you make a lot of sense, and we need leadership like that. And whatever role you take on in the future, I hope that you'll continue to speak out and speak for common sense. I don't care what party you're from. I'm a Republican. I don't care what registration you are, Bill. But we need strong leadership right now more than we've ever needed it. So please keep speaking up.
Well, I appreciate it. I have no desire to be in public office. I'm not interested in running, and I slide back and forth between the Republicans and the Democrats, depending upon which primary I want to vote in.
Yep, sure.
I actually go down to town hall and switch. So,
that's good.
We'll see what happens this time around.
Yeah, you're a moderate. You're a Mainer.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that of all the things I've ever done, outside of the important things in your family, this is the thing I'm most proud of, because I'm surprised by how much attention my voice has gotten. And I hope that it makes people stop. Everybody stops and thinks before they vote, but I hope they'll consider what's the best vote for me. I hope they'll vote for Susan. And as I said earlier, I did this of my own volition, and I'm not being paid. It's the way I really feel that Susan Collins is the best for me.
Well, let me tell you how I see this. When I was a kid, I was bullied, horribly bullied. I was the smallest kid on our football team. Growing up, I was the smallest kid on the playground. And what you did reminded me of an intervention one day when this other kid on the playground stepped in and said, "Stop beating him up." And that's what it looks like to me. You just stepped in and you got between the bullies and Senator Collins. And for whatever it's worth, you'll always have my respect for that. We just need more of it. People need to have the courage to step up and defend things when they see something happening that is not right. So thank you. I
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we call that in the legislature, we call that being on the side of the angels. So whatever happens, just know that you are on the side of the angels.
Now, I'm actually feeling that way. Once this started, I just have tried to not get involved with any trolling or anything like that. And it's astonishing that it's so vitriolic. And I hope that's something that this helps in some way, calm things down a little bit and helps everybody get along, and we start working on the problems, because Lord knows we have a lot of them.
Amen to that. Well, thank you, Bill. We have one more guest. We're going to have Matt Dunlap, Secretary of State, come on, and he's going to try to walk us down ranked choice voting a little bit more. I am very concerned with ranked choice voting. It appears to be allowing a lot of gerrymandering of our election system. I did some research between our last show and this one, and what I'm seeing is it looks like it's being manipulated, but for another day. Well, thank you, Bill.
Right.
And
hey, Bill,
opening day Saturday, you guys.
I know.
It is.
Good luck Saturday.
Hey, maybe we can have you back on the show after the election sometime, and we can talk about lighter subjects.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. The other thing, Bill, is on occasion we're looking for a host to fill in so that one of us, either Mike or myself, can go out and do a little bit of the things that we love. We'd love you to consider maybe coming on and hosting the show with us once in a while.
sometime, maybe on a specific topic that
Sure.
I like deer hunting,
Yeah.
sea duck hunting.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Be
Bill.
well,
Have a
you
good day.
guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
You
Yep,
too.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Leadership Through Action, a presentation of SAM ILA. We'll be right back. Leadership Through Action is back. Here's Mike Shaw.
Welcome back to Leadership Through Action, a production of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine. And for the segment, we have the Secretary of State, Matthew Dunlap. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
Well, welcome to me, I guess. Thank you for welcoming me. I was trying to figure out how to respond because I all served together in the legislature. And, of course, Mike, you were also a House Chair of the Fish and Wildlife Committee. And, David, you were a critical member of that committee for the years that you were on there. And so welcome to my friend.
I got to be honest with you, Matt. Between you and Mike, I just love you guys, and it was a lot of fun to be in the legislature when we all served together, even though we didn't always agree and we're not from the same parties. It was what I call the good old days, and I do miss.
We all
them.
got along. Yeah.
Oh, we got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff done too for conservation.
Yeah.
It's amazing what we were able to do.
Definitely.
Hey, Matt. We had you on last week, and we didn't really finish because I kind of went off on a tangent. We didn't really get to finish you telling us about ranked choice voting, and I will share with you a call I had from Brent. I'll just use his first name. Yesterday, he said that he went in and he spoke with his clerk, and the clerk told him that if he colored he shaded in the little circles for one candidate across the board, that his ballot would be rejected as an overvote. So there's a lot of confusion out there. Can you run us through ranked choice voting and how to properly vote?
The clerks don't. Let me just be clear about what the clerks do and what they don't do with ranked choice voting. What they tabulate are the first place votes. That's it. They don't do anything with ranked choice.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear
That kind of gives us the compass on where we need to go. So, and this is important for a couple of different reasons. Because what's the first thing everyone wants to know at 8:05, right? Who won?
Who won? Yep.
And if you have a situation, and believe me, we were struggling with this as this is before the referendum was adopted by the voters. Like, how do you do it? Because rankings mean different things to different voters, to different towns. Obviously, ranking a statewide race, the rankings are going to appear much different in Kennebunk than they do in Caribou. So, to distill it, it only made sense to do the rankings in one cascade. So you wouldn't want, Kennebunk to do their rankings, Caribou to do their rankings, Ellsworth,
right.
Waldoboro, Bangor, Windham. I mean, it'd be all over the place. You'd have no idea what to do with those numbers. So you put them all together, and you run them together. So how do you get to that point? Well, under the law, we know that if somebody gets a majority in the first round on election night, which really is, we sort of treat it as a first round. We're not calling it the first round, but that's the initial tabulation. So, if you have the situation, which is typically how it can work out, is that if somebody gets 50% plus one vote, a majority, you don't do the rankings at all. The clerks make that determination. Yeah. Now, let's pick on an actual real-life case, and that would be the 2018 congressional election. On election night, Congressman Poliquin was leading by about 2,000 votes, but in terms of percentages, it's pretty much a tie, about 46% apiece between him and Congressman Golden, who wound up winning in the rankings. Like I told you last week, the operative question there was those 23 votes for the two independents, were those protest votes or did they rank? And did they rank their choices? And just over half of them did rank their choices, and they went in both directions, but most of them went to Golden for the second choice of those voters. And when they were redistributed, the race went to Golden in the second round. But we do that work. The towns don't do that work. So to answer that question, and we have it in all of our educational material, it's on our website. We have the animated cartoon that shows how it works with all the slides. If you mark your ballot say there's a 5-way race for president, and you select one of those candidates, and you fill in every single oval, first rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, and fifth rank for one candidate, it's treated as a first place vote only. It'd be the same as if you just voted first place for one candidate. It doesn't. The point is, it doesn't invalidate your vote. What would invalidate your vote is if you gave every one of those 5 candidates a first place vote and you went down instead of across. Then we can't divine voter intent. Who do you really want?
Right, and I get that.
So that's how that works.
Yeah, that's terrific explanation. So what I will do, what he said to me was that the clerk said it would be an overvote. I suspect she was talking about what you just mentioned, which was if there's 5 and you vote Trump on all 5 of those, your vote's going to get kicked out.
No.
Well,
the other way around.
No, I meant right down. You vote for all 5 candidates.
First place.
Yeah, first place.
Then your vote gets kicked. But if you voted for Trump first place, second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place, your vote counts.
Yeah,
it's perfectly fine. You don't have to do that, obviously. You can just vote for him once if you want to.
So let's pick one of the other candidates. I mean, and unless not all these candidates have I don't want to demean their campaigns, but a lot of them aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So if you take Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate, or the other 2 third-party candidates, if you gave them a single vote or all 5 rankings, they don't make it out of the first round. What does that mean to you? Well, it's the same as it would play out in a plurality election. You picked a candidate who went nowhere. So it doesn't hurt anything. But what the ranked choice system affords you, say you really like Joe Jorgensen, and you like what Joe Jorgensen has to say, and they reflect your values, and you give them a first place vote, well, I'm probably not going to go anywhere, so I'll give my second choice to Trump, because Trump, actually could stand a chance. And this is why I say what I hear from people who use this system, not involved in it, they tell me what they like about it is that they can vote for somebody they admire and trust without inadvertently electing somebody they hate. And, and the partisan nature of this is probably natural, because I think it was the election and then the re-election of Governor LePage that really spurred the effort to get this thing on the ballot. And then, of course, for Republicans, the stake through the heart was the defeat of Bruce Poliquin in the 2018 general election. And I've had plenty of conversations with people in the legislature that I have relationships with everybody, really, but they all agree that they hate it. They hate ranked choice voting. They see it as an attack on conservative ideals, that there's no way you could ever elect another governor like LePage if ranked choice voting was available for governor. And they see it sort of as an existential threat to conservative values.
Well, I
feel that way until they win an election.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Well, that's not. Yeah. As a conservative myself, that's not the objection I have with it. It's when that smaller group, like the Greens or somebody like the candidate Savage, is going to get 6 or 7% of the vote, and then tells all their followers to vote for another candidate second. That's a super minority, and our country is not designed that way. We're supposed to elect our people based on a majority, as close to a majority of the people as possible, so that the majority of people feel represented. And when that super minority in the second round can kick a candidate over the top with 5 or 6% in a block, is when things start to deteriorate. And I've made that point, and I will in the future. I don't want to take up your time, Matt, because you're so valuable with.
And I've thought a lot about how you stated that, and I think voters control their ballots, not candidates. So the effort to have people and we saw that in the Democratic primary for governor in 2018, where you had former Speaker Mark Eves with the advocate Betsy Sweet appearing in TV ads together, saying, "Vote for me first, vote for him second, vote for me first, vote for her second."
Yeah, but they set the precedent.
We'll change the nature of the campaigns, but it's going to be up to the voters to make those decisions.
But is it though, Matt? Because I did some research between that show and this one, and I found multiple sources across the state, including bloggers who own newspapers in Portland, who were advocating just that that when this is over with, if you want Savage's policies to be in place, then vote for Gideon second. And it's a statewide effort. And if the numbers come back, and this is where I think, Matt, you can do a little bit more work, and you probably can give us better numbers.
You're good at giving me extra work. I've noticed that.
In the race, most of the Greens are concentrated in Portland and some of the more heavily populated southern areas. Even more of a problem for me is if one political persuasion in one area of heavily populated city like Portland is voting in a block and putting people over the top, one city is going to dictate the leadership of this state, and so we'll see this play out.
But just to play devil's advocate, what if you look at Savage as you'd label her as a progressive?
She
right?
is. She admits that. She says so in her campaign.
And same thing with Speaker Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at it this way, if it was those three on ranked choice, and 5% voted for Savage, and 47% voted for Gideon, then that block of people, ultimately what they want from a politician, they would win.
Yeah, but you're getting it both ways, Mike. You get it both ways.
I think Mike's right on this.
No, he isn't. No, he isn't, because you're getting two bites at the apple. You get to vote for your Green candidate in the first round knowing that your second choice, Gideon, which is less progressive, but you're telling your people to vote for. You get two bites at this.
But there's no difference.
The same effect is in place on that presidential race with a libertarian like Joe Jorgensen and President Trump. You have a plurality election only. Never mind ranked choice, but plurality election. Back when I was in the legislature, it was almost an open secret that Republicans in those southern Maine areas would recruit Greens to run on the ballot so that they would split the vote with the Democrats so the Republican could get elected instead. And I think we saw fear that could happen if the Libertarian Party ever got real traction in Maine, that they could do the same thing to the Republicans in those more rural districts, split the vote with the Libertarian and the Republican and the Democrat, or the Green gets elected. So, I think...
Well, that's a good point, Matt.
Part of the practical outcome of ranked choice is that you neutralize that so-called spoiler effect. So if you really like that,
you gave it to somebody else, though. you still have the spoiler effect, and these people have figured out how to use it already. We haven't even had this thing.
I just don't see it that way. I mean, yeah, if you had a pure plurality system, then Poliquin would have gotten reelected in 2018. But if those voters had, because those two independents were more progressive, but still, David, a lot of those voters who ranked gave Poliquin their second choice. It was not a sweep. So, I can't explain that type of voter behavior. Just like, when we see the tabulations come out, there's a reason why the threshold for qualifying a citizen initiative is set at 10% of the people who voted in the last race for governor, not who voted in the last gubernatorial election. And we saw this in 2016, that fewer people voted in the race for president than who showed up to vote in the election. People leave races blank for whatever reason. They don't know the candidates. They don't like any of the candidates. They're there for one particular issue or another, and the tabulator will tell you if you've people. There are people who show up at the polls as a protest, take a blank ballot, and they cast it. They don't like anything on the ballot. They're not going to vote for anything. That's what I mean when I say the voter always controls their ballot.
Yeah.
Hey, on another topic, real quick, Matt. So what happens is with the ranked choice voting, when it's not when someone doesn't win by a majority, all the ballots are then collected and brought up to. Is it the same as like a recount? Are they brought up to the state police barracks in Augusta?
Well, we're not using the state police barracks anymore. We're using actually the state office building. But yeah, we would gather, depending on the race, like say it was a legislative race with a three-way contest in the town of East Wagon Wheel. It's one town, one district. We just simply get all, if it was a hand count town, we get all the ballots from that town we bring them to Augusta. If it was a tabulator town, we get the memory devices. And so, what we did in 2018 was we just focused on the 2nd Congressional District because that's where the ranked choice tabulation was coming from. We've also done it statewide. And, with this particular cycle, there is available to the voters ranked choice voting for President of the United States, U.S. Senate, and there are some write-in candidates in both congressional districts, even though on the ballot printed, it's just the 2 qualified candidates from each party. So, we would bring, in the case of like the 2nd CD or statewide, all those ballots from the hand count towns and all the memory devices from the machine count towns, and basically we would create one uniform image stream, because the tabulator doesn't count bubbles. It actually takes an image of the ballot. And so we're able to count the ballots where people don't follow the instructions and they circle the name of the candidate, they don't fill in the oval, they put an X next to everything, or they put a check mark, and we can actually count those votes.
Yeah. No, I hate to interrupt. We're out of time, Matt.
Again?
Yes, I know. We're gonna have to make you a part-time host of the show, and then at least you can get a word in edgewise. Hey, Matt, I gotta wrap it up. The boss over here, the sheriff, is telling me we're out of time. I really want to thank you.
Great discussion, though. Thanks for joining us again. Yeah, it's a great discussion. Yeah. Always
is with you, Matt. I'd like to think I'm a smart guy, but you always make me feel like I'm not. But
Matt's the smartest guy I know.
I know. I hate it. It really aggravates me. All right. With that, thank you, Matt. And we're going to have to wrap up this week's show. Go forth and vote. And God, thank you. It's over.
Thanks, Matt.
Have a great deer season.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
This has been Leadership Through Action, presented by the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine's Institute for Legislative Action. Become a member of SAM today by visiting sportsmansallianceofmaine.org.